The IMC Planning Process. The IMC planning process begins with communications research. From this research, decisions about the target market and product positioning can be made. These are joint decisions because one decision affects the other. Next, we set objectives for the communication. From the objectives come the budget and a selection of the appropriate IMC components. Again, it's a mutual decision because the budget impacts which IMC components can be used, and the selection of the IMC components affects the budget. The first step in the IMC planning process is conducting research. So the three primary approaches used in communication research include product-specific research, consumer-oriented research, and target market research. So the product-specific research involves identifying the key selling points of a product and the desirable features. To develop an advertising campaign, the creative staff should understand the product. Customer-oriented research focuses on the users of the product and how, when, and why the product is used. So researchers can use approaches based on anthropology, sociology, and psychology. A common method used by agencies for customer-oriented research is focus groups, in which you get a relatively small number of people, maybe 10 people, and you ask them questions to give you insight into what the consumer is thinking. Target market research utilizes the information gathered through product and customer research to determine the best target market for the brand, product, or particular campaign. So we as marketers need to determine, is our target market segment viable? Is it going to be large enough in order to yield us a profit? To be a viable segment, it has to meet 4 criteria. First, the individuals or businesses within the segment should be homogeneous. That is, they should be alike. Second, the segment must differ from the general population and also be different than other market segments. Third, it has to be large enough to be financially viable in order to be to support the marketing campaign. And fourth, the segment has to be reachable through some type of media or marketing communication methods. There are some market segments in Africa and other parts of the world that meet the first criteria but not the fourth. There's no feasible way to reach them with a marketing message. Product positioning is the perception in the consumer's mind of the company and its products relative to its competitors. It's important to recognize 2 major points. This is occurring in the consumer's mind and relative to the competition. Positioning is created by factors such as product quality, price, distribution, image, and marketing communications. And so companies need to carefully consider where they're positioned in the marketplace and then develop ads to reinforce that image or move the consumers to the image that they desire. So if Domino's advertises, "Our pizza beat Pizza Hut in a recent test taste," the positioning approach would be based on competitors. There are several different ways in which you can position your product. Product attributes involves promoting a unique attribute of your product to distinguish it from your competitors, using your competitors to establish a position in which you're comparing your brand to your competitor. Apple Computers has long done this strategy. The use or application involves creating a memorable set of uses for a product. The price or the quality positioning can occur in 2 ways: by emphasizing the value or the low price, or by emphasizing the high quality. The product user approach emphasizes who uses the product, such as educators for Apple computers. Positioning can be based on the product class, such as breakfast foods, sports cars, beverages. The last approach is cultural symbol, which strives to connect the brand to some cultural symbol that is recognized and known by consumers. An effective IMC planning process requires quality communication objectives. These objectives tie the organization's context, target markets, and positioning approaches to the selection of budget figures and IMC components. Communication objectives also guide account executives and advertising creatives in designing the actual advertising campaign. A communications budget is based on both the communication objectives as well as the marketing objectives. There are several types of budgets that marketers can use. The percentage of sales method sets the budget as a certain percentage of this year's sales or what you're projecting your sales to be the following year. It's simple to use, which makes it a popular choice. The meet the competition type of budget sets a budget approximately equal to what the competitors are spending. This approach is used in highly competitive markets where you really have to spend what the competition does to keep your brand in front of the consumers, and it really seeks to prevent market share loss. The what can we afford approach sets the communications budget after all the other budgets are set. Normally with this approach, management does not see the importance of communications. The objective and task method sets the budget based on what it will cost to accomplish the communication and marketing objectives that have been established. Most marketers see this as the best method. It is now being used by about half of all firms. Payout planning involves setting a budget based on a ratio to sales or market share. This method usually results in spending more money early in the process and then reducing the budget after the brand is established. Quantitative models, this uses historical data to determine the relationship between sales and marketing, and then budgets are set according to that. Communication budgets can be scheduled in 3 different ways. A pulsating schedule involves advertising throughout the entire year with bursts of additional spending at select times, such as holidays. A flighting schedule allocates the budget only during peak times, with no other times during the year. In allocating its marketing communications budget, a ski resort in Colorado would tend to use the flighting schedule. The continuous schedule divides the budget equally throughout the entire year. The last decision, in conjunction with the budget, is the selection of IMC components. Traditional advertising cannot be ignored in favor of newer non-traditional methods. Companies have to think about how much is needed for trade promotions and consumer promotions. Then there is the actual spending on media. Some companies will also have to consider business-to-business spending, such as Starbucks, who has a IMC plan geared towards the final consumer, as well as to businesses that it sells its coffee to. It's not an easy task to determine which components will be the most effective. Not only is the budget a factor, but also the objectives or the goals of the IMC plan.